And we're live. Hello, friends. I'm here with my client, Jean-Luc, who's just finished phase one in the program, and he had fantastic results. Jean-Luc, thank you very much for joining me this evening. I'm excited for this talk, and I'm excited for the opportunity to share your story with whoever's watching this video live or on the replay. Before we dive into all your successes and accolades, let's just give everyone a little bit of background on who's Jean-Luc. Do you want to introduce yourself real quick?
So my name's Jean-Luc, and I am a development chef for a restaurant group in Belfast in Northern Ireland. I basically found out about Leo's program through my friend Matthew McKinley, who did an interview with Leo earlier in the year. I think literally, I am the least gym person in the world. Like I don't think I've done any sport since I left school. And, you know, it's one of those things like you kind of take your eye off the ball and the weight piles on, then you have kids, and then you have a busy career. And before you know it, you know, you're in your early 40s and you're way off where you want to be. So I suppose it was a bit of luck, just sort of one day logging onto Facebook, seeing Matt, having a chat with you, and then here we are.
Yeah, awesome. Just before, even before you saw that interview, before you even knew about the program, what was happening in your life? What were you struggling with? What were the problems you were struggling with?
Right. Well, I mean, you know, I literally, as I said, hadn't done any exercise in a long time. You know, you put on a bit of weight slowly. You know, clothes aren't fitting as well as they once did. I think for me, a real eye-opener was my son. He's now 9 years old. He's a great little footballer. And I've always enjoyed playing football with him. And I'm finding now, you know, sort of kicking a ball around the garden, out of breath when I really shouldn't be. You know, I'm not going, you know, this isn't the Premier League. This is kicking a ball about in the garden with a 9-year-old, feeling out of breath. I decided to I did one of those Randox health checks, and they run like crazy amount of tests. It's like 140 tests about everything, about your heart health, about your blood pressure, all of these things. And the results I got back were crazy. Actually, they managed to put forward the odds of what they predict your risk of heart attack in the next decade is, and actually it was a lot higher than I would ever have expected. High blood pressure, all these things that you don't think, you know, is you. And then you see them there in black and white. So I knew that it wasn't just a case of, I'd put on a bit of weight and I wasn't, you know, I wasn't body confident, if you like. It was actually more important than that. It was actually heart health and, you know, having a heart attack potentially before the age of 50.
Yeah. So you were kind of on the fence. You knew about the program through that interview, and you were kind of on the fence. And then when you've done those lab tests, then you were very worried. And that was the push when you reached out, right?
Mm-hmm. You know, also, I mean, as I said, I don't, you know, I think I joined the gym once when I was in my early 20s, and from memory I went in once. I think I walked around a bit, I drank a bottle of Lucozade and I left. And from memory, I think I went to KFC on the way home, literally no interest. So I was a bit nervous as well, especially with a personal trainer. You can't, you know, I wasn't getting away with KFCs with you, Leo. You know, I knew that I'd have to commit to something, and commitment's scary, you know, especially with something that's out of your comfort zone. So, you know, that was from the start, that was something that I kind of ummed and ahed a bit about whether or not to commit to the program, or even to reach out in the first place. Because I didn't know if I had it in me actually to commit to a program long term. And, you know, I think a few people have said, in your previous clients have said, that the accountability thing is massive. Like my default setting is, even when in the past I've flirted with the idea of getting fit, my default setting is I look out the window and I go, no, it's cold, it's wet, I'll do it another day. there's always like you can like the mind's an amazing thing that you can convince yourself that I will do it, but just not today. I'll do it. Look, I'll start next Thursday. Next Thursday sounds like a good day to start running. There's no rhyme nor reason for it, but that's what human beings do. I think with you, it was this like constant prodding, like, wait, have you done your exercise yet? And taking photos of what I'm having for lunch and stuff like that. It was brilliant. That's what I needed. It was that accountability.
Yeah, like it's like having someone on the other side will definitely make a difference. So what was your first weeks and months? What was your first weeks of experience like when you joined the program? How did you feel? What were the changes?
Yeah. I think at the time I said to you, like, what's next? And I couldn't quite get my head around it. Like the first week, and even me, like my wife said, oh, what did you get up to this week with Leo? And I was like, oh, apparently I'm visualizing how I want to be. And she's like, well, that's not gonna lose the pounds, is it? I was sitting there with a cup of tea, visualizing. But I think actually, when they say trust the process, I know it's a cliche, but my word, like, the way it was set out, you never ever felt that you were taking a massive leap or something you weren't comfortable doing. It almost kind of fools you into thinking this is really, really easy. And how it's kind of ramps up slowly each week, you're starting to see results without actually stepping out of your comfort zone. Or now, all right, admittedly, the workouts do get harder, but nothing actually was scary for somebody who was coming at it from like a really low baseline like myself.
Tell me more about like the visualizing thing. Do you think that helped?
Oh yeah, absolutely, it did. I mean, there's I'm not there. We've had this chat before. I'm phase 2. I'm certainly not the finished product. I'm no Men's Health cover model. But I'm definitely, the basics I wanted to lose weight. I wanted to feel more confident in that way, and I wanted to be fitter, and I'm definitely fitter. I can play football with my son. I can go for a run without coughing up a kidney. That's what I visualized, and that's what I aspired to achieve. In the program with you, and that's what I got. So that was important. And at the end of the day, we laughed about it at the time. Do you remember I was saying to you about the physique, and you were like, let's walk before we run. At the end of the day, that's the next stage. But what I visualized at the start is what I achieved.
Absolutely. Yeah, I remember that. And for like anyone's watching this and wondering like, what is that you do visualizing? What are you talking about? So before we even start the nutrition or the exercise program, I usually get clients to do some mindset work so they can have a compelling vision of exactly what they want to achieve. And so that's like some pen and paper exercises to help them have some clarity on what exactly where exactly they want to go. And so that's what Jean-Luc is referring to. Let's talk about your especially the physical results. What's the difference between then and now when it comes to the way you look and the way you feel in terms of conditioning?
Well, I mean, two stone, give or take. I mean, visually is massive for me. It was, I think growing up, I was skinny in my teens, and then in my 20s, I just thought, wow, I'm blessed with this metabolism. I can eat what I want, I can drink when I want. Unfortunately, it pops out all over the place when you're least expecting it. Late 20s, boom, you've got a belly. Mid 30s, you've got a big tush on you. You've got the love handles. You're going, this isn't how I've ever looked. But then you find it's harder and harder and harder to shake off. I still think that physically, my neck, my shoulders, I've never been a big guy. So when you're carrying weight on your stomach and carrying weight, sort of you've got that kind of egg on stilts kind of look, skinny legs, skinny shoulders, skinny neck, and then the sort of bigger middle section. So me losing 2 stone is massive for, it's changed physically how I look. As you know, I went to Ibiza with the family there in August, and that was, people always assume, girls talking about getting their bikini body ready. This isn't me going, I was going on holiday with my family, but when I started the program, I said to you, Leo, I'm embarrassed at the moment to be around the pool. But it's a big change.
Yeah, absolutely. And before and after pics are quite insane. Actually, like one of the best that I've ever seen. Besides like the weight and the physical aspect of things, what kind of progress have you experienced outside of that, like in your professional life, in your personal life, as a result of that added confidence and like just feeling, more energized?
Oh, the energy is huge. I mean, the majority of people who are either watching this or have, been on the program themselves, we come from an industry which is it's tiring, it's and small things that I didn't think would make a massive difference. It has. I mean, the weight loss, the diet, the exercise, and keeping to an exercise regime. I mean, I'm more energized when I get home. The knock-on effect as well is that I'm not just sort of like collapsing when I get home, just knackered. I don't work service anymore, so I don't even get in at night when the kids are in bed. I get in from work at a really good time, which I'm really blessed with. I'm really happy with that. But what it means is that I don't avoid the kids. The kids are there, and try telling a 9-year-old you're tired from work. He doesn't care. He wants to go in the garden, kick a ball about. He wants to do things, and I have that energy now, and it's so important. The funny thing is when I first started working with you, and you were saying about the intermittent fasting, I said to you, not in a sort of cocky, arrogant way, because it's something I'd had a lot of interest in for a long time, and I had tried intermittent fasting. And, I genuinely believed I knew what it was about. And I said to you, oh, Leo, I've been doing that for ages, but, it doesn't seem to work for me. And it's funny because I genuinely did. I thought, wow, I can sort of eat my dinner, say on a Monday night, and then not eat till the following evening, or breaking my fast at 2:00 on the Tuesday. But it's the all important thing, how you break your fast. There's no good fasting and then breaking your fast with eating crap, and that's what I was guilty of doing. If you're in kitchens, I'll break my fast now I'll eat a bowl of fries, it's pointless. So it was interesting going back and actually looking, all right, I'm not saying you were going deep into the science, but you were explaining to me, about the power lunch and the importance of breaking your fast with like clean food. And that's made a massive difference for me in my energy at work, in the working day. So there's all these tools that you just pick up and they kind of become second nature.
100%. I know you had some comments from people when they started noticing you were losing weight.
Yeah.
What did that feel like? I know you had different types of feedback along the way.
Yeah. Well, I never did it for, I wasn't suddenly walking around the kitchen wearing spandex and Lycra, look at me. But, it was nice that I'd been on this journey for, a good few weeks and making big sacrifices, like with food wise and drink wise and with exercise, and no one was noticing anything. No one was saying anything. And then the first day, it was nice because then people were interested in, what I was doing, what program I was on. So, it's that's a motivation, isn't it? You when you get sort of like positive comments about you know, oh, are you losing weight, or you looking healthy, you know? Yeah, it's nice.
Definitely. That's the best type of feedback. What would you say was the number one challenge you faced throughout the program, and how did you manage to overcome it?
Without doubt, the biggest challenge for me was the exercising, and you kept setting me little targets. It's funny because a few of my good friends over here would be sort of keen runners, and you know, my wife's cousin, he's a very, very you know, he takes it seriously, the running, and I follow his, you know, on Instagram. I see him just going out, stretching his legs and clocking up sort of 7 or 8 miles, and you think I was sort of leaning against the wall at the end of the drive, you know, coughing and spluttering after my first run. And you know, I just don't enjoy exercise. But you were very, very, what I liked about the exercise that you set, you've got the, you know, the how did you find this workout? And I think the first couple I was like easy, and you know, I think you did that to give me confidence that I can do this. And then slowly you ramped it up, and then it was becoming more challenging. But then by that time, you know, I had a little bit more confidence that, yeah, I am going to go out for a run. And this time I'm not going to stop for, you know, until I hit the half hour. You know, you kept saying, right, can you break that 3K, you know, 4K, that kind of thing. So that's what I needed. I needed little challenges, but not to the point that I would have been deflated very early on. And to be honest, I think it would have been hard to come back from that. You know, I needed the confidence boost and the easy wins early on. But that's what's great about the program for me, is that it seems at the start like, you know, this is really, really easy, but it's very slowly ramped up to the point that actually you start noticing massive progress.
Yeah, I think one of the reasons why people who try to do something about their health and then fail after, you know, a couple of weeks, 1 month, it's precisely to overwhelm themselves and going all in, and then, you know, you just lose encouragement and you end up giving up. And that's actually one of the things that happen now that we see in January. Whenever January starts, everyone starts doing something, and then they rapidly give up, and
or giving everything up together, don't they? You see people maybe don't have the best lifestyle, and they're saying, right, 1st of January, I'm giving up the drink, I'm giving out the cigarettes, I'm going to get a gym membership, I'm going to do all this. And, you know, all great things to do, but I'm telling you now, you know, if you're kicking everything in the same time, you know, the chance of succeeding are going to be very hard. So, you know, and that was the other thing, was we were talking about the fasting and the diet. That was the other thing, was again, I said to my wife, no, I'm allowed to eat this. And she was like, are you sure? And I'm like, yeah, I'm allowed to eat this. And again, like with diets, that's what they say, isn't it? You know, if you restrict yourself on everything, you're going to have, like, you know, a crap day at work. You're going to come home and you're going to eat all the chocolate. You're going to eat all the crisps. You're going to binge. You know, I felt with the way it was structured with me. All right, I showed you what I was eating. Like, you know, that's the accountability again, taking a photo of each meal and stuff. But, you know, I remember calling you. No, I messaged you, didn't I, when I was on my way to dinner. And I said to you, look, Leo, I'm not going to lie to you. I'm going to have drinks tonight. And you said, right, okay, what kind of restaurant are you going to? So I'm going to a Japanese restaurant. There will be wine. And I remember you giving me tips on how I could order better to kind of minimize the damage I was about to do to, you know, potential progress damage with the wine. And, you know, I like that, the fact that, okay, I'm not going to say, no, you can't have this, but, you know, in order to counter it, maybe less carbs or whatever. And, you know, things like that that was really helpful.
Yeah. That's one thing that I like doing, because, you know, people don't need to, you know, stop having everything they enjoy. You can, as long as it kind of adheres to the guidelines.
Although you did stop me having gelato with my daughter, which I thought was quite cool.
Did I?
Yeah. I texted you. It was when it was about my 20-minute movement. I said, look, I've done my 20 minutes, but that involved walking to the gelato shop with my daughter. And I was kind of just putting the feelers out that you'd go, oh, come on, you deserve it. You've worked hard. And you said, no gelato for Jean-Luc. And I was like, right, okay.
The trauma.
That idea put to bed then. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm surprised you remember that.
Yeah,
that's funny.
That was early on, and I was testing the waters to see how lenient you were, and I realized quickly that no, he means business here.
Well, at least like that, I believe that was right at the start. So right at the start, like we gotta
absolutely
take things a little bit more,
Yeah.
What would be your advice for people watching this that are in a similar situation as you were even before you started all of this?
I would say, was it a guy? Was it Kevin you interviewed the other day?
Yeah.
I think that was the last one. I watched that one, and there was actually quite a lot of there was a lot of things he said that I was, I just thought that's exactly the same journey as I had with the program, with the accountability and all of that kind of stuff. I think for somebody who is where I was, I think take the jump, because genuinely, as I've said a couple of times, going to the gym, working out, fitness, it's never been me. I've wanted it to be me, but it's never been me because of lack of confidence. I don't know, walking into a gym and all of that environment, it's not really for me. The accountability through being the kind of person who's very, very, very accomplished at making excuses and just not doing it when it comes to exercise anyway. Just putting it off, and fitness, health, it's something for another day. I think for somebody who's in my position, absolutely jump in, because this program will get you results far easier than you might have initially believed, but also you'll suddenly stop and realize that you actually have made massive advances in your fitness, in your confidence. I actually would, when you put an exercise program for me when I was in Ibiza. I mean, going into the gym in the hotel, I wasn't embarrassed. There wasn't that same trepidation about, this isn't my environment. This is for gym people. This isn't for me. I felt with the exercises you'd set me, basic weight routines and stuff like that. It just gave me the confidence, and now I know that going forward, I don't have those hang-ups anymore.
That's fantastic. Last question, and it's going to be a tough one. Are you ready?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So we know that Arsenal is in the first place now in the Premier League.
That it has to be something to do with you, Leo. I have to say, I met you and we just dropped out the top four, and it was all sad times, and now we're unbeatable.
Exactly. Because like we're talking like on closed door, we're negotiating. Hotel Arsenal, we're negotiating.
Yeah.
But do you think you're going to win the league this year? Genuinely, being totally honest.
The head says no, but the heart says absolutely. Absolutely, we're going to win it.
Let's go.
Yeah, but no, I don't think we will. But look, I kind of, the Premier League's coming back a bit too early for me on Boxing Day. My heart's broken still from the World Cup. So, yeah, sad times.
Well, next time.
Absolutely.
All right, people, let's wrap up. Disclaimer, Jean-Luc is not a paid actor, but I appreciate you coming here. Again, thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you for everything, Leo.
Thank you for joining me. This has been great. And thank you all for watching. Keep being awesome. And I'll see you on the flip side. Jean-Luc, I'll talk to you soon.
Speak to you soon, Leo. Thank you.
All right. Take care, mate.
Bye-bye.